Now, I want to ask you just overall, you end up in this front office, which for years upon years has been one of the best run front offices in the NFL. And obviously it's led by Howie Roseman, the GM. How would you describe, Howie's leadership style and what you've learned from working so closely with him and just seeing all the success that he's had running that front office?
Yeah, two things I would highlight about Howie's leadership style. One, just setting a standard of excellence. He's a perfectionist, and he demands all of us to be the same. That's not to say that we are perfect, but that is the standard that we're expected to meet. So we know that he's noticing everything, and he's taking in a lot of information. And if you're not on top of your game, it will be noticed. So I think that sets the expectation. And then second would be sort of relentlessness. He's going 100 miles an hour all the time, and you have to keep up, which pushes people to stretch themselves and be on top of their game at all times. And then as far as what I've learned from him, the closer I've gotten more into, working with him, the more appreciation I have for the scope of that job and how much information and management of people goes into it. So, observing him navigate that at a championship level is something that I'm always, taking notes on and, gaining appreciation for how difficult that is, because there's not really, like a no one can say exactly how to do it. You just have to kind of watch people do it, and everyone will have their own style for it. But it's fortunate to observe him do it at such a high level.
I mean, the Eagles front office, they've had so many people in that building over the years, many of whom have been promoted within the building, many who went on to become general managers and assistant general managers with other teams. And it's really a true collaboration led there by Howie Roseman. Now, particularly with you, you started off as an intern. You've been promoted several times from the internship to football administration coordinator to director of football administration to senior director of football transactions to eventually where you are today with the senior VP of the organization. I guess just when it comes to earning Howie's trust, was there a key moment where you felt like you earned the trust of Howie Roseman there in the front office?
I actually think it's important to think about trust as a very gradual process rather than a binary, you have it or you don't. I think you accumulate trust very gradually and incrementally over time. And part of that is just doing a good job consistently. Part of that is um, banking unique ideas as you go. And then part of that is saying things that you feel strongly about, even if that's counter to consensus. So I don't think there's a specific uh, point, but the way that we interact now and the trust level I believe he has in me now is different than 3 years ago, which is different than 6 years ago, which is different than 9 years ago. But it's consistency and reliability over time is really the only way to gain trust, I think.
I mean, it's so true, and it probably applies to every line of work, not just football. I mean, it just it's very, very true. And you mentioned before how once you got the job, you realize there is way more stuff that you get to see once you're inside of a front office than when you're outside of it, whether it's over the cap or as the general fan. You've said before what you see publicly is just the tip of the iceberg. What is something that fans would be surprised to know happens in a front office in the job that you do?
Yeah, one thing that comes to mind is the logistical coordination that goes into just the most minor transactions. So let's say we're signing a player to our 90-man roster in training camp. Minimum salary, there's not really negotiation. It's the most simple type of signing, from coordinating with the agent to booking travel to scheduling the onboarding process to physical exams, uh, equipment, video, signing the contract, getting the player with the coaches. It is a massive undertaking that involves a ton of people, and oftentimes on a tight time frame. I mean, there are times when this process starts at 7 p.m. and has to be finished by 9 a.m. the next day with a player who's not in town. So there's a lot that goes into it that happens, after you read the announcement of what's going to happen.
It's such a true thing. And obviously, right now here in the off season, every single team has 90 players, and that's why having a staff around you that knows what they're doing and you could trust, and having all that in place, it helps a lot. And one of the better run organizations, if you're able to have that, everything is able to run pretty smoothly. And I would say Philadelphia is near the top of that in the NFL. Other thing about the Eagles that I wanted to ask you about is under this front office with Howie Roseman, the Eagles have this reputation for thinking outside the box. And I think you're a very, very big part of that. I guess, how does that philosophy play out day by day? And I've heard Howie say, we don't want to, we'll zig when everybody else is zagging. Like, how does that work within a front office that you guys are trying to think of something nobody else has?
Yeah, I think it's generally it starts with the mandate from leadership. So uh, starting at the top with Jeffrey down through Howie, there's a mandate to be innovative and leave no stone unturned. Um, and on a day-to-day basis, from my perspective, how that starts is being detailed and comprehensive in tracking what every other team is doing. And the more in the weeds you can be, the more situations you'll notice, the more scenarios that maybe don't apply yet, but could apply at some point in the future, you'll come up with. So it's noticing the details. And then the second part would be talking about it, discussions. This is not a solitary job. I think any idea we've ever had that's been interesting has come about as a result of brainstorming between multiple people. So for a long time, that was myself and Jake. Al Calabi has been a constant throughout the years on that. Now I work closely with Adam Berry, but you go back to Andrew Berry or Catherine Hickman, people we've had over the years where someone notices something and then we talk through scenarios and then we have the opportunity to make the case to Howie for this unique thing that we want to do. This is why it'll make sense for us. This is why it's not doesn't impact the player negatively, etc. And then we've always felt empowered to make the case for any idea being on the table.